really good liberating art can only take place in an atmosphere where there is no fear. And I don't think we're at that place right now in our society. You know what I didn't get? I can't help what I didn't get. I'll try to I'll try to send messages and get something interesting, work with the big directors, whatever. But if I don't, I'm like, okay. I also understand that some of these comments, these vicious comments come from an agenda that is not, they're not actually commenting on my work. They're not even commenting on my performance. I would accept a fair criticism of my performance. If you're making a fair and valid critique, I would really still accept it. But what is there to feel bad about someone who's just showing you their lowest self? Like, why should I feel bad? They should feel bad. And I really, really want to share and say to people that, you should never be bullied. Never get bullied. Never get bullied into silence until you don't have people from marginalized communities or communities that have been underrepresented or misrepresented. These people behind the camera. What's in front of the camera will not change.
One of the most amazing, talented, sought-after actresses in Hindi film industry, Swara Bhasker, joins me today on Bollywood Bubble. Welcome to Bollywood Bubble, Swara. I'm very happy to host you. I saw the trailer. I saw the trailer for Dobara Alvida. It is very weird that we don't talk about closures in our love stories in our films. Closures is something I think everyone deserves at the end of the day, right? This is a story which actually talks about it. Was that one of the reasons why you perhaps wanted to be a part of the story?
Absolutely. So firstly, hi, and I'm happy to be here, and thank you for hosting me in the middle of my house, which is currently under renovation. So I'm sitting here while work is happening on that side. Absolutely. I think that that this is a very, very, there's something very sweet. There's something very universal. There's something very familiar. And there's something very real about this story. And the story, any story that looks at residual love that has lingered on even after the goodbye has been said. And it's something that's so universal because all of us have said goodbye to someone we love at some point in our life. And it has stayed on in us, that love has stayed on in us in different forms. And I think that exploration is one of the reasons why I was keen to do this film. Of course, Shashank, who's the writer-director, Shashank Shekhar Singh, is also a very, very dear friend of mine. And he's someone who's been very good to me, very kind to me, stood by me through a lot. So I did not have any doubt in my mind when I saw that he was making this journey as a director, taking this new step as a director. And when he asked me to be in it, I had actually said I'll do it even before reading the script. But when I read the script, I was like, babe, I'll do it happily now. It's not a favor anymore. I'm doing it because I really like it and I want to be in it. So that's really what it was. And you're absolutely right that I think that closure is again something that's so universal,
Yeah, I think it has that universal approach and appeal to it, the story in itself, because this is an emotion which every one of us have either felt it at some point or may feel it in the near future, that it is going to happen at some point, I'm sure. But tell me, do you feel this is a very liberating time for you as an artist as well, because you get to tell stories which are universal? Not just that, but also the approach to a story, the execution, it has evolved over the period, right? Do you think it also liberates you as an artist?
I think so. I mean, look, I think that any opportunity for a great performance and any opportunity for a performance that challenges you will liberate you in some way, in a way that you will not even realize sometimes while you're doing it, and then you only realize after you finish doing it. So it's performance is a very it's like a very interesting kind of thing like that, it's just that relationship of an actor to their art, or to a performer to their performance is a very actually complex kind of and it's hard to put into words. I think, however, that when we talk about liberation, the thing is that really good liberating art can only take place in an atmosphere where there is no fear. I don't think we're at that place right now in our society, because I think actually quite the reverse, unfortunately, is happening. Because while technology is freeing us in a certain way and is liberating us and is helping us become have more means and have more opportunity for experimentation, for trying something new, for doing something new. In society, there is actually becoming, there is a sense of narrow-mindedness. There is a sense of a certain kind of, the opposite of opening up. There's a closing down, there's a shutting down that's happening.
Ironic, because I feel that as we are actually going global, and while we would expect that the mindset would broaden, I think we're in fact going back into the shell. Like, you take 2 steps forward and then there's something happens and you take, it's 4 steps backwards somehow, and it's ironic in a lot of ways. But how do you...
Absolutely.
Despite all those challenges, Swara, you still manage to pick up projects which are different, which are challenging, which sometimes question the societal norms and gender norms and all of that, Is it difficult to be in that space as well? Because a lot of people around would say, why don't you play safe? Why don't you just do this commercial thing? Yeah, to commercial karna. Why do you want to do something like that?
I don't think I would have had a career if I played safe. I would have, what would I be competing, who and what would I be competing with? I think that the reason that you're talking to me right now is because I actually was able to kind of chart my own path, right? And that's why you know me from a sea of like hundreds of very beautiful faces and very pretty women or men. You associate something with me that is mine, and that you and that is the relationship that you and I have, and I have that with each person who's watched my work, which I think is a blessing, and I'm very grateful for it. But I think that I don't think I'd have had a career, honestly, babe, if I had played safe, because if you look at my career, and I'm not saying this in any kind of arrogance, I'm not saying this in any kind of hubris, I'm just saying this very honestly, that my career is actually built upon not taking the advice that told me to play it safe. If I played it safe, I no heroine aspirant will play the best friend of the heroine. That was my launch, Tanu Weds Manu. No heroine aspirant will play the sister of a superstar. Prem Ratan Thanpayo is one of my most widely recognized films. No heroine aspirant will play the role of a 15-year-old teenager's mother who's a maid. Nilbatti Sonata is my first solo hit. It's the film that has given me everything. No heroine aspirant would do an anarkali of Ara. Would do an anarkali of Ara because she's promiscuous. She's just not an easy victim. She's not easy to sympathize with, and it's my most special film. It's a cult film. It did so much for my career. Nobody playing it safe would do that role in V-Day the Wedding and that scene. So I think
that's so liberating. I don't know the kind of debate it stirred, of course, but when you see that scene. As a woman, I'm saying, you feel so liberated because you just feel that, oh my God, someone is putting the female desires and, the whatever a female goes through in general in her life out there for the public to see. For how long are we going to only show what men want and from their gaze? And the female gaze is equally important, right? At the end of the day.
Absolutely. And the thing is that I really feel that, you cannot control the kind of scripts that come to you, but you can control what you choose to do. And that's what I have never thought about, what I didn't get. I can't help what I didn't get. I'll try to I'll try to send messages and get something interesting, work with the big directors, whatever. But if I don't, I'm like, ठीक है, तो जो मिल रहा है उसको best बनाते हैं. And so increasingly, a lot of my work is really, as you will see, there's a lot of first-time directors. Faraz Ansari, who's done Sheer Khurma, is a first-time director.
Actually, my first question, in fact, was going to be this, that, Swara, your film career, if we see in the last few years, if we may see, you have been working with new directors. Do you think that also helps you to put your artistic, the performance elevates? Because the directors are not coming with a baggage. They are not coming with a hit, so they have to produce another hit. They are just simply putting their out there. Do you think that helps to elevate the script and the performances?
I think that it definitely makes the process more collaborative. Because I think that the first-time directors are definitely more open to, to being a little more interactive. because they haven't gotten set in their ways, and sometimes they don't know it's the first time they're dealing with actors, and so they're like a little more open. But actually, that said, even experienced directors I've worked with, I mean, I think one of the easiest directors for an actor that I've worked with is Anand Rai. Great director for actors. Similarly, I think that I would say that I've actually been very lucky. And I think I have a good balance between first-time directors and like iconic directors. So whether it's I've worked with Suraj Barjatia sir and Shyam Benegal, which is of course one of the most precious memories of my life and of my career. So I think I've been very lucky. I have a very wholesome body of work in that sense.
But you know, when I look at your career as well, there's such amazing performances that you have given. But what is it that really, like each day when you're on set, what is it that moves or what is it that challenges you? Because you've showed a variety of characters, So what is it that motivates and challenges you even now?
I think for me, acting and being on set and performing is just like, it's really like, I don't know how to explain how uplifting I find it for my heart and for my soul. And like, I'm happiest when I'm working. I'm happiest, I'm most stable, I'm the best version of myself. I know that's a really stupid line, but I'm the best possibilities of me when I'm working. And I every moment I savor, every time I do a shot that has worked and I feel it's worked, it feels good. Every time I miss it and I don't do it well, it feels horrible. I don't sleep well the day that I don't feel I've given all the good takes or all the good shots. And it's something that I'm very alive to my work. And I think a very large part of my happiness and joy actually rests with working. So I'm very grateful that I have it and that I'm able to do it,
I can see when you're even speaking about work, the happiness radiates. You can see that. But tell me, for someone who is, because I can understand that, I'm also very attached to my work, right? So, but if someone questions that work or calls you a certain great actress at various points, does it ever affect you, Swara? Because I know that when you're giving your 200% and when your work is something which means a lot to you, and someone just out of personal vendetta sometimes just says things, it affects you. I mean, I don't know, you are a different person, of course, but sometimes it does get to me. Did it ever get to you?
I think I was lucky that when anybody raised that kind of comment about my work, there were so many people to defend me. I didn't have to say anything myself. And I think I also understand that some of these comments, these vicious comments, come from an agenda that is not. They're not actually commenting on my work. They're not even commenting on my performance. I would accept a fair criticism of my performance. I mean, I can watch some of my performances and I can tell you where I think I've not done a good enough job, or where I've learned and grown, and I'll tell you where if I would do it now, I would do it differently. I'd do it better. I'd do it differently. I mean, and some of those are like so-called considered to be my most well-remembered performances that I've won awards for. So I'm absolutely open to fair criticism, but I think that those kind of comments are like, that's just like a different kind of trolling. It's I don't take that stuff seriously, because I don't take trolling seriously, because I think it's silly, it's baseless, it's pointless, it's like
utter time waste. I think you've thick skin also. Eventually.
I think all of this stuff actually says more about that person than it does about me. When people talk like that, it actually, if you're making a fair and valid critique, I would really still accept it. But what is there to feel bad about someone who's just like, showing you their lowest self? Like, why should I feel bad? They should feel bad.
I agree. But tell me something, when what happens is, you are Swara Bhasker. People look up to you. People look up to there's a certain credibility and responsibility which comes with that name as well. Do you think that sometimes you censor yourself a lot only because, or don't reply it in a way which you perhaps would have, only because you're Swara Bhasker and you cannot stoop to that level to reply sometimes? Does that happen as well?
Then, yeah, of course, a lot. I mean, the thing is, firstly, let's just, one thing I have to say, I don't read comments. I actually don't see a lot of the things that are said about me because I don't read it. Sometimes when it's a blue tick verified account that's saying that, or like I only track those conversations because I mean those are lesser basically than to wade through this like nonsense, horrible rubbish comments. And I don't. There are a lot of things that I don't react to, but sometimes I do, and sometimes I actually even react when people are telling me that I shouldn't and I should let it go. But I do it because I want to make that point, not to just that person, but to everybody who's listening to our conversation and who's and I really feel this, and I feel this especially because I know that a lot of young women follow me and young people follow me, and I really want, and women in general follow me, and I really, really want to share and say to people that you should never be bullied. Never get bullied. Never get bullied into silence. There is the first thing that we need to learn in life is to stand up for ourselves. If we cannot stand up for ourselves, we will not be able to stand up for anyone else. So that is something that I do feel very strongly. And then of course sometimes there are comments that are very vicious about minority community or LGBTQI plus community or Dalit community, and I feel that it's my responsibility as a citizen, not just from the majority, but as a citizen from privilege, to not allow that kind of conversation to slide.
That also brings me to a point, Swara, wherein I already congratulated you actually, but I want to reiterate that Sheer Kurma looks amazing. The poster looks amazing. I'm so glad that you're coming with a story the representation which is extremely needed, I think in our industry, we have somewhere failed when it comes to representation of LGBTQ community. I don't think it's been fair enough. Itna zyada. But how was that experience like? Sheer Kurma, it is going to be shown at the Vienna, correct me if I'm wrong there, at the Vienna Film Festival, is it right?
Yeah, it's opening at Vienna, and it's premiering before that at San Francisco and in Florida. So it's doing the round of a lot of international festivals. And I have to say, I lay the credit for Sheer Kurma entirely on the writer-director, Faraz Ansari, because it's really his baby. And I'm glad and I'm grateful to him that he chose me to be part of it. I'm glad and grateful that for the opportunity to share screen space with two of my most favorite actresses, Shabana ji and Divya ji. I just feel like I don't even know how to explain to you the just sheer joy of being in a film with Shabana's. I have no words to explain that.
Of course, I can't imagine that joy, but I can only imagine talking to her because she is someone we look up to. Yeah.
She's an icon, and there is no denying that. And Divya ji is one of my most favorite. I think Divya Datta is one of the best actresses of our generation. She's amazing, and so I just to be with her is again, it's just been wonderful. I think that I think it's really nice to be able to be in films where the makers have the kind of passion and vision that they do. And it's interesting because both Faraz and Shashank, I saw that, even with Dobara Alvida, which is a very different kind of story. But I really did see that, I really did feel that Shashank also brought a kind of a craft and a passion and just a conviction to the film that was just wonderful to be with. And then it just becomes, and we used to fight a lot about the script, argue and and let's do it like this, let's do it like that, options, because he's also a good friend and I was reading all the drafts. And I think it just shaped up really beautifully. So I think that I'm really glad to have been in both films. And as far as LGBTQI plus representation, or frankly representation of any kind, see, the thing is that until you don't have people from marginalized communities or communities that have been underrepresented or misrepresented, it could be women, it could be LGBTQI plus, it could be Dalits, it could be South Indians in the north, it could be Northeasterns, Kashmiris. Until you don't have these people behind the camera, what's in front of the camera will not change.
True.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Look at the difference between a film like Fire, which is about same-sex love made by a woman, or Onir's film, My Brother Nikhil.
Yeah.
And say the other more sensationalist films that have been made on lesbianism. You can see the difference. Because men have traditionally made even same-sex love stories basically to consume a soft porn for themselves.
True.
But because Faraz is from within the community, I think he's really telling his own story. That's not the story of two girls. That's the story of a little boy who's and his struggle to come out to his parents.
Yeah, and I feel so proud, when I see all of that, because I feel that these are the stories which will change the way people also, globally also look at Indian cinema, because for the longest time we have been stereotyped as just one section, like, जो सब dance करते हैं, meaningful stories होती नहीं है, but there are stories like this which need that kind of an attention as well, and I feel extremely proud. Like, it's coming from a place where I felt so nice when I saw the poster, because I felt that, oh my god, this is so beautiful, and amazing. But do you think that, do you see a change as well in the past 2 or 3 years wherein representation is changing in a good way, wherein female gaze is being appreciated, or vis-a-vis male gaze, and where representation of minorities has increased and proper light has been given, not just tokenism nahi ho raha hai? Do you see that change happening?
I think so, but again, I link it all to the fact that more people are behind the camera from those communities, but also that because of social media, their voices can be heard from the audience as well. So, there's just a greater degree of accountability because of social media. And I think that has made a huge difference as well.
I agree. What about world cinema? Swara, are you consuming anything? Because I know that in the lockdown, a lot of people have moved to OTT. They have been watching Korean dramas. They have been watching Spanish shows. The language barrier has somewhat blurred. Like, I want to learn another language because I'm like, oh my god, I want to watch that.
Nice. I have not been very curious or experimental. I've actually not watched that much content because I've just been very... I've actually had a weirdly busy pandemic, I must admit. And now I'm back here trying to get my house done, which has been going on for the last 2.5 years. I don't even understand what is happening here anymore. But I've been... the thing is that, like, things are so dark and things are so depressing out on the outside that I have just been wanting to watch like feel-good content. So I have watched a lot of Friends reruns. I've watched Entourage, the whole all seasons of it, and then the film. I watched Schitt's Creek, which I had not seen, and it's lovely. Yeah, and I watched The Good Place recently. So yeah, I've been keeping it very like feel-good, light, happy content.
Thank you so much, Swara.
Thank you.
Always keep looking forward to your content. I keep looking forward to your work, and I'm very happy.
Thank you. Please watch Dobara Alvida on the 8th of June on Royal Stag Barrel Select Large Short Films. That's the platform where it will be available, and I look forward to your opinion and the opinion of everyone. I want to know if anybody had a Dobara Alvida experience in their life.
Surely. And also, best of luck for Shirkurma as well. And I'm sure Dobara Alvida is going to touch hearts.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's such a pleasure.
Bye.